is to use the quotient rule to differentiate the function. So I give you a little mnemonic for remembering this. If our function on the top, we'll call that up of x, is equal to, alright, this time it's equal to the square root of x, and then we have a function on the bottom, we'll call that down of x is equal to x cubed plus 1. The derivative of up is equal to, well, the derivative of x to a 1/2 is we bring down the 1/2, we multiply x to a 1/2 minus 1, which is negative 1/2. And the derivative of down, one way of writing that is d up and d down with respect to x, right? But we'll just say d of down is equal to, well, the derivative of this is 3x squared, because the derivative of x cubed is 3x squared, the derivative of 1 is 0, so we don't write it. So I know that if I want to find the derivative with respect to x of some rational function h of x, I can use the quotient rule by saying that the derivative of two functions divided by one another, where the numerator is the up function and the denominator is the down function, it is equal to down d up minus up times d down. Down d up minus up d down divided by down squared. I know it sounds silly, but it kind of helps me in memorizing what the quotient rule says, right? So I know that this is going to be equal to down, which is x cubed plus 1, times d up, which is 1/2 x to a negative 1/2, minus up, which is square root of x, or we can write x to a 1/2, because we have two mixed derivatives here, so it kind of helps me there, times d down, which is right here, times 3x squared, divided by down squared, which is going to be x cubed plus 1 squared. So let's do some simplifications on that. So this is going to be equal to, alright, well, we have x cubed minus 1. Let's distribute this term, or this factor, to both of these terms. So this gives me 1/2 x to a negative 3/2 plus 1/2 x to a negative 1/2 minus, alright, so these two are being multiplied to one another, so x to a 1/2 times x squared is going to be 3x to a 2 plus 1/2, right? So, you know what? Oh, I messed that up here, right? This should be x to a 3 minus 1/2, because I'm multiplying them together. So, this guy is incorrect, and should be x to a 3 minus 1/2. Right? Yes. Alright. So then this is going to be divided by x cubed plus 1 quantity squared. This is going to be equal to 1/2. So this is going to be 3 is the same thing as 6/2 minus 1. So that's x to a negative 5/2. Oh, no, positive 5/2. because we're going to take away 1. Yep. So then we're going to add 1/2 x to a negative 1/2 minus 3 x to a 2 plus 1/2 is going to be 5/2. Over. And this is going to be over x cubed plus 1 quantity squared. Bring this up. Okay. So then this is going to be equal to, here I have two bases that have the same power. So if that is true, then I can combine them. So I have a 1/2 of those and minus 3 of them. So that's going to be 1/2 minus 3, which is going to be negative 5/2 x to a 5/2 plus 1/2 x to a negative 1/2 divided by the quantity of x cubed plus 1 squared. So, am I done yet? Well, let's see. One thing that we can do is that we can go to the book answer in the back and see how they want us to get it and how much work that they actually want us to do. So our book answer says that it is, so here's our book answer, right? It's 1 minus 5x cubed over the quantity of 2 square root of x times x cubed plus 1 quantity squared. And you might get to this and you might say to yourself, oh man, I'm wrong. But are you? Maybe you are, maybe you aren't. One thing that we can do is try to rewrite this in a form that looks kind of close to what we have. So I will say that this is the same thing as 1 minus 5x cubed divided by 2 square root x quantity of x cubed plus 1 squared. Okay, so what am I missing? I have at least this part. So that's going in my favor, right? I see that there's a negative 5 here and a negative 5 here, right? And then there's this 2 that's on the bottom, and I have division by 2 on both of my terms in the numerator, right? So what I'm going to try and do is go through and try to manipulate what I found to get it to try and look like the book answer. So I have a 2 in both of the bottom, right? So now I can take out that 1/2 from both terms in the numerator, and I'll bring it out of the entire function here, right? It's just like the 1 over delta x that we had from our limit problems. So this is equal to negative 5x to a 5/2 plus x to a negative 1/2 divided by the quantity of x cubed plus 1 to a square. And we're not ever going to touch this part in the denominator, but I'll keep carrying it forward anyway. So now I have this 2 on the bottom, right? That looks almost exactly like where it should be. I have that negative 5 right there. I have really a 1 that's right there, right? I'm looking pretty good so far. But I still have these exponents which are incorrect, right? There's a square root of x on the bottom that I don't have right here, right? So let's try and manipulate it further. Let's take 1/2 and I'll multiply the top and the bottom by x to the square root of x. Notice that I have all these radicals so that are in rational form that are kind of all different from one another. So instead of writing square root of x, I'll say do a 1/2 on the top and bottom. All right, negative 5x to a 5/2 plus x to a negative 1/2 divided by x cubed plus 1 quantity squared. And this I'm all just bringing down again, right? Now again, I'm trying to look at this form and manipulate this to see if I can prove that what I found is equivalent to the book answer, right? So let me distribute this x to the 1/2 through to both terms here. Right? So this will give me I'm sorry, hold on. This will give me 1 over 2 x to 1/2 square root of x. I'm going to leave it like that because it kind of gets me to something that looks like the book answer. Times negative 5 x to a 5 over 2 plus 1 over 2 plus x to a negative 1 over 2 plus 1 over 2 divided by x cubed plus 1 quantity squared. And this is equal to 1 over 2 square root x times 5 over 2 plus 1 over 2 is 6 over 2. So that gives me squared, right? And negative 1 over 2 plus 1 over 2 is 0. X to a 0 is 1 no matter what x is. It gives me 1 there. And this gives me x cubed plus 1 squared. And this is clearly equal to 1 minus, we just switch the order here of the negative 5x squared and 1, so 1 minus 5x squared divided by 2 square root of x cubed plus 1 quantity squared. So here, right, was where we got. And the book gave us an answer which is different than the one that we got. Actually, it's exactly the same, but we didn't know that, right? So we just try to manipulate it and get it to a point that we can confirm that our book answer is indeed exactly equal to the answer. Let's see, come up here. These x to a 1/2 in both terms, right? And we can try and factor them out immediately, right? So I have here x to a negative, but they're of different powers too, right? So I can try to factor out an x to a negative 1/2 from both, but what that gives me is, and maybe a 1/2 as well. And what that will give me is, that is this thing here, so that's x cubed plus 1. I'll factor that whole thing out, and then minus, okay, so I factored out an x to a negative 1/2. That would give me the same thing as taking out 1 over x to a negative 1/2 from x to a 1/2 times 3x squared. And of course, this is all still divided by x cubed plus 1 quantity squared. And this is equal to, well, this is 1 over 2 square root of x. This thing is this part right here. And this is times, well, if we were to do this part out, okay, so let's actually do it out. X cubed plus 1 minus, all right, well, x to a negative 1/2, 1 over x to a negative 1/2 is the same thing as x to a 1/2, so this is the same thing as x to a 1/2 times x to a 1/2, which is x. And then that x is being multiplied to 3x squared, so this is the same thing as 3x cubed, right? And this is divided by x cubed plus 1 quantity squared. And I also took out this factor of 1/2 here, so I need to make up for that, maybe by putting a 2 right there, right? So I took out a 2, I have to replace it somewhere. So this actually should be 6 right here, right? So this is equal to x cubed, so we have a x cubed and a negative 6x cubed, so that becomes negative 5x cubed. And we'll bring that one out in front there. 2 square root x times the quantity of x cubed plus 1 squared. So this is a more direct way of finding it, right? Same simplifications, just noticing something